Hey there, Skeleton Key here. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today, welcome to my midlife crisis. Okay, so that's being a little optimistic since I am now 55. So that, but midlife, that's, oh well. Uh, but anyway, we'll be talking about my 55 by 55 reading challenge. And that was a challenge to read 55 specific books, not just any books, but very specific books by the age of 55. And and here I'll show you the list. I've got it. It should be linked down below already, but if not, I'll have to work on that later. Sometimes things don't show up like they're supposed to. And let's see, share screen. Okay, so this, and you probably can't read the list, but I assure you there are 55 titles all told. And here are the ones I finished. I started this in 2023. So about 2 years ago. And I thought, that's enough time to read all 55 of these books. That's just what, 2 or 3 books a month, right? Right? No, didn't work out that way. I read a grand total of 8. So, I think I even said, yes, I said I'm probably courting disaster by setting myself 55 specific books to read before I turn 55. Well, apparently there's courting disaster and there's giving it a lap dance. So, anyway, I, so I've got all of these books here, the remaining books. And at first I thought, well, I'll just keep these and then add more books to make it up to 60. And we'll try again, and I'll have 5 whole years to make it to 60. So, wonder what the world is going to be like in 2030. Let's hope we all make it that far. Um, hmm. But yeah, I decided, no, why don't we start kind of fresh? Because some of these, yeah, I'm excited about reading most of these. There are a few that I put on there to kind of nudge myself to. It's like, you really need to read this already. But these are a bunch of books that I've been meaning to read for a very long time. But I thought, no, let's just kind of take a slightly different approach for the 60 by 60. And let's see. I will talk a little bit about the 8 that I did read here. And actually, oh, I made a banner and everything, so I should put that up. Anyway, and I do want to say, if you are catching this on the replay, or if you're just popping in and out as you need to for this, because I know life is busy, you are perfectly welcome to watch this on the replay and then to comment instead of hopping into the chat right now. So you can go into the comment section on the replay, and yeah, it'll take me a while even after this to get everything figured out and get my 60 by 60 list put together. But let's take a look at the 8 that I read. And these are all ones that I have talked about a little bit before on the channel. But I'll just go through and just take a look. So in 2023, I finished Babel 17 or Babel 17. I keep hearing people pronounce it Babel or Babel, and I guess that's fitting. But that's by Samuel R. Delany. And that is a classic science fiction book. And let's see. Oh, Yeah, I should start sharing my screen again. Because and this is why I do this is over on my blog, which I do on Goodreads because it's so easy to link to specific book pages in the blog. Um, and I really like that feature and because most of the time I'm talking about books in my blogs. So here we go. And this is I gave it 3 stars out of 5. And I don't actually remember a whole lot about it. I did like it. I didn't love it, but I liked it. It was pretty weird. It was very okay, first published May 1st, 1966. Yes, it was very 1966. I was not here for 1966. I'm not that old yet. But yeah, it's I don't know. It has a bit of a Star Trek feel to it. It's very space opera, like it says here. And it's what yeah, if I were to need to tell you the plot, I could not do it. It was very vibes. No plot, just vibes. Um, so it's a thing. Am I glad I read it? Yeah. It's I don't know. I like science fiction, and it's kind of nice to kind of go back to classic science fiction and see where even though a lot of it did not age well at all and some of it is just it's these old white guys and they're not speaking to me, um and I much prefer a lot of the newer stuff that is coming out because it's my kind of stuff, my kind of stories. It's good to see the roots, and where things kind of started, and going back to Mary Shelley even. And that's I am actually going to be doing Rocket Summer, which is a reading challenge next month in July, and that is you're supposed to go like week by week, and the first week is up through the 1930s, and then the second week is the 1940s, and the third week is the 1950s, and the fourth week is the 1960s. And it's not 28-day month, so weeks are just kind of flowy, fluid, whatever. So, but I am doing Rocket Summer, and so I will be reading some more classic fiction next month. And then Network Effect, and I'm gonna have to reread this one because uh it okay, so this is the Murderbot Diaries 5, and this is the one that's a novel instead of a novella. And something weird happened with the order because I read Network Effect and then I read number 6 in the series, which is I don't remember the title, but it's a novella. But I'm not sure. I think it actually goes before Network Effect. So now I've got to read Network Effect again because before I move on to the next book, book 7, because book 7 apparently, I am told, picks up where Network Effect left off. So I want to be sure that I know exactly what I'm doing. But Network Effect, Murderbot, I heart Murderbot so much. And yeah, I highly recommend if you have not read Murderbot. And I have not watched the TV show. I have a feeling I'm not going to be crazy about the TV show. But if you have not read Murderbot, the Murderbot Diaries, the first book is All Systems Red, and I love these books. They're wonderful. Just start with All Systems Red. You do need to start there, because there is a through line. There's a story arc that goes through, and which is why I'm all confuzzled now because I don't know where book 6 goes. But yeah, just do it. And I'm sorry, my voice is probably going to go pretty quick. So I don't know how far into my 60 by 60 I'm going to get. My sinuses are going nuts right now. So we'll see how long this lasts. Okay, and what just happened to my screen? It does that sometimes. It just kind of, I don't know if you could see that or not, but it just like pulls everything into the middle and minimizes. I'm like, what are you doing? So Herland by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. And this is, I gather this is the second book in a trilogy. And I remember talking about this in a previous video when I first read this. And it's, again, classic science fiction. This is from 1915. So this is, early 20th century science fiction. And it's about a community of women isolated and from men. And I didn't love it at all. In fact, I only give it 2 stars. It was kind of okay. There were a lot of things. I feel like it brought up a lot of really cool, interesting thoughts, but this was all from these male perspectives, and it just really, and I guess that was the point, but it really grated on me and my nerves, and I was just, I did not have fun reading this. But there you go. I would only recommend it if you want to read some vintage feminist science fiction. It is feminist in some ways, and in other ways, it's like, is that feminist? I don't know that that's really actually feminist. But it's interesting. It is interesting to look at and evaluate and see what was going on in the world in 1915 and how people thought. It says this edition also includes the yellow wallpaper by the same author. I did not read that edition, but I have also read the yellow wallpaper long ago. I might ought to reread that, but that's another very, very interesting look at how women were treated in the early 20th century. It wasn't good. It was not good. Okay. And then Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman. I don't really want to talk about Neil Gaiman, so it's what it says on the tin. Yeah. Circe by Madeline Miller. And this is one that sat on my shelf for a very long time. So I'm glad that this challenge kind of nudged me to read this. It has been in several different book clubs I belong to, and I finally finished it. And I really enjoyed it. I think I read it for Book Snobs finally. And it's different. And one thing I really appreciate about Madeline Miller is she actually takes these myths. And the problem I have with the Greek myths and Norse mythology in general is that it doesn't make sense. Make it make sense. And Madeline Miller apparently heard me, and she makes things make sense. And I really, really love that about her and her writing. And it's about Circe, who was, from the Odyssey, and it really fleshes her out as a character. And I really feel like I have a better understanding of what the myths were really about. And, learn about, take a class or something, or learn about myths. And I'm just like, okay, so spring from Zeus's head, what, huh? And it doesn't make any sense. And then sort of like the Marvel Cinematic Universe with all of its infinite reboots, it's like, wait a minute, that's not how that happened. What do you mean it doesn't matter how that happened? This is a new reboot. And I'm like, ugh. So that's why I don't get along with comic books very well. It's like, just make up your minds. Make up your minds. What actually happened? So yes, I do recommend Circe if you have any remote interest in that. I have one friend who is an expert on a lot of classic stuff, and she hated it because she didn't think everything was right. And I'm like, well, you could actually be correct, and you probably are far more correct than I am. I just really appreciate that this story made sense. So I don't know. So maybe if you have too much of an interest in the classics, you'll hate it like she did. But anyway. And then, The Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury. And I'm sure I've talked about this before. And yeah, and this is the edition that I read. This weird little paperback. What is it? The Grandmaster Editions. And it's here in this this page lists all the contents, all the short stories. And I think I mentioned it before, but if you don't feel like reading all of the Martian Chronicles, do yourself a favor and read There Will Come Soft Rains. And is it Usher 2? I think it's Usher 2. There's several that, some of them I'm just like, huh. And they do kind of interconnect and intertwine, and I think it's worth it to read all of them. Some aged better than others, but I still think, and some of them, there's a lot of misogyny, but I think that was kind of the point of, I think he was trying to point out the misogyny of our society in the 1950s. This was first published in 1950, so in the 40s. And I'm not sure over what period of time he wrote these, and I'm sure some were published separately first. And but this collection, I think part of it is to kind of point up the misogyny in our society that is still in our society. And I think he was kind of saying, yeah, we'll probably take it with us too, to Mars, if we go to Mars. But anyway, I think it's a very worthwhile collection. The Salzburg Connection by Helen McGinnis. And this is, it's kind of your standard, I think 60s, 1968, Cold War espionage thriller. And this actually kind of harkens back to some stuff in World War II. And it's an adventure with there's some social commentary in there as well. And she's very prolific. In fact, I've got a few more of hers on my shelf that I do plan to read. Not urgent, but who knows, maybe one of them will make it onto my 60 by 60 list. And the 8th book was Catfishing on Catnet. And I think I've talked about this one too. And this is by Naomi Kritzer, and I went on sort of a little Naomi Kritzer jag there for a bit, and I read the sequel to it. And these are YA, and they do come across as very YA, but especially if you are a parent of a teen or a tween, nowadays, not even that old, if you're a parent of a youngster of pretty much any age, or if you deal with teens in your work or just in general in your life, I would recommend this to just kind of have a handle on. And this came out in 2019, so it's already a little dated, but it deals with an AI character, a sentient Cheshire Cat is a sentient AI character, and introduced in a short story. And it's this character is a good character and not malicious, but points out that there is much malice out there in the world, and a lot of it is targeting people online, as well as in meat space. And they're, the two interact. And I mean, there's, even, something as simple as cyberbullying in high schools or middle schools and probably elementary schools. But it kind of shows a lot of these threats, existential threats and physical threats even, that young people today are subjected to. That, you know, Gen Xers, we didn't have social media when we were in high school. What are you talking about? Yeah, it's like nobody was recording our every move. We didn't grow up in a surveillance society. So, Gen X and older, it's, and Gen X, a lot of us did start, in high school, we started getting computers and stuff, and in middle school for me. But it's really hard for parents and grandparents today to really have a handle on just how fast everything is progressing. And this is in 2019, and it's set in near future, but it's pretty amazing. And I feel like it holds up well even when our technology has moved past the near future of 2019. And I think it's very useful for adults who have kids in their lives to see what kinds of things are out there. All right. So those are the 8 books I finished. Yay! Now, I'm going to ask for your help building my 60 by 60 challenge. So, yeah, be sure to comment if you see a book that you think I will like or not like, or if you want to warn me against it, and I haven't been warned against it already. But I decided what I'm going to do is, the 60 by 60, I was like, well, do I want to do this again? But I'm like, 5 times 12, 60 is divisible by 5. It's divisible by 12. It just, so 5 years, 12 months each. So it averages out to 1 book a month. And I mean, I typically read at least 15 books a month. Lately, it's been more because I've been reading like short stories, standalone short stories and things. And, if Goodreads counts it as a standalone, sure, I'll count it. And, I really don't pay attention to the numbers. But here, I'm dealing with now 60 distinct books, specific books, and taking a look at that. So I just figured that was the math worked out very nicely, assuming I'm mathing correctly. And that's not guaranteed, by the way. I do not trust numbers. Numbers and I are not really friends. But my approach this time is going to be for the next 5 years. I've got my list here. I decided let's divide, since 5 times 12 equals 60. I am sure about that. I've written it down and everything, and I've divided and and added, and yeah, I've worked the problem a number of different ways, and I'm very certain that 5 times 12 does equal 60. I'm good with that. So I have decided on 12 categories. Now there is going to be overlap, so I will do some shuffling after this. even after getting your suggestions and kind of working them in here and seeing. But I've got these 12 categories, if you will, and I figure if I come up with 5 books in each category, then I can, let's see, oh, sorry. Sorry, I meant to quit sharing my screen, and instead I just deleted that tab. Oh well. Sorry about that. Anyway, where was it? Oh, okay. So, and I've got well over 60 books to choose from here. But I decided, okay, so my first category, and this is actually going to be a little firm, and this is going to be from my 12 by 12 list. And that is a challenge to read 12 books recommended by 12 friends. And I actually did this, got this list of 12 books at the end of 2023. And I read 6 of them in 2024. And that left 6. And I've managed to read one of those earlier this year, but that leaves me 5 books, and it's like, well, I need to read them by the end of this year. So I didn't ask for another 12 recommendations last December. So I'm just like still working on my original 12. And so let's see, I'll just share my screen again and show you the 5 that I have left. And now, of course, the 60 by 60 is going to skew to books that I own, and more specifically, physical books that I own. But there will be some ebooks and audiobooks, and there will be, I think I'm planning on 2. At this point, I've got 2 library books that I'm planning on. Maybe. But for the most part, I want these to be books that I do already own and that I've just been meaning to get off my TBR and just have not. And so the first one that I have not read is The Expendable Man by Dorothy B. Hughes. And I have this on ebook. It was really hard to find a physical copy of this, and the library didn't have it at all. And I think I even tried Prospector, which is sort of our interlibrary loan thing, and they didn't have it. So I went ahead and sprang for the Kindle edition, and this is a mystery. It's a noir thriller. So I think I will enjoy this. It won the Edgar Award. Oh, it was a nominee for the Edgar Award for Best Novel in 1964. So some cool 1960s stuff again. So I don't know. There's something I do not wish I had been alive in the 60s, because I feel like the 60s I would not have enjoyed at any age, teen, toddler, whatever. I just don't think I would have. I mean, I hated the 70s. Ugh. And I don't think the 60s would have been an improvement on that. But a lot of interesting reads came out of the 1960s. So I'm looking forward to reading that. And that was from my friend Barbara. And I don't think I've ever met Barbara in person. Maybe I have. I'm not sure. Actually, maybe I think at an annual gathering. I think we may have met briefly. I'm not sure if we were introduced or not, but I think I may have actually met her. Then the next one, and I don't have the rest of these prepped, so I'm just going to have to type it in. The Light Pirate by Lily Brooks Dalton. This is going to be a library book. I have started it and I haven't got it back from the library yet. I'm currently reading it. I've been currently reading it for a while. I'm scared. My prior experience with Lily Brooks Dalton has not been good. So, yeah, I didn't want to buy it. It's like, this is Beth's. Sorry, Beth. I know you think I would like this, and I'm just really, well, I can't say why I'm scared to continue, because that would be a spoiler for the other book, the one that's got turned into a movie. I kind of hated that book. And so we'll see. I promise by the end of this year, I will finish The Light Pirate. We'll see what happens with that. And then, I do have, let's see. Well, I'll save that one for last because I actually have a physical copy of it. And the next one I have a physical copy of. And so that takes us to... Okay. Michael Picard's Creative Deductions Home Run. So I think this is a series opener, and this is Michael's recommendation. Michael Picard is a friend of mine. I know him from some writing workshop kind of things, and I have not read any of his finished work yet. So I do look forward to this, and this is one that I have bought an ebook version of, because getting it is out in paperback, but I think it was considerably more expensive than the ebook version. So I've bought the ebook version, and I'm looking forward to reading that. So, but it is a mystery. Creative Deductions, Detective Nick Chasm. So, and this is, I believe, Chicago based. So thank you, Michael Picard, for that recommendation. And then I will show you the other two for which I have physical copies. This one, this is Meg's recommendation. Losing an earbud. And this is Night Train to Rigel by Timothy Zahn. And I have seen this on multiple, let's see, there we go. Multiple recommendations lists since then. And I don't think I'd even heard of it when Meg recommended it. But I was able to find and procure a physical copy of this. I have not started it yet, but that will definitely go on my 60 by 60 list. And again, if you have any comments or recommendations or anything, just go ahead and share them. And let me put this off to the side. And then the other one is, and whose recommendation is this? This is Bev's recommendation. I have started this one. I had to go back to the library, and it was a prospector thing, so getting it back from the library is kind of a production. So I went ahead and bought myself a hard copy of it. This is The End of the Alphabet by C.S. Richardson, and it's interesting. I'm having mixed feelings about this so far, which is why I didn't read it quickly enough that it had to go back to the library. I'm kind of not liking. So this guy has a terminal illness, and he decides that he wants to visit, do his bucket list of trips, and starting with the letter A and ending with the letter Z. And his wife is like, "Are you sure it has to be like that?" Because I guess he's pretty much at death's door, but she's like, "Okay." And I gather that a lot of it is about their marriage and their relationship and how it develops during this time. And I'm liking some parts of it, but other aspects I'm just kind of lukewarm on. So, but I do want to get back to that. So, and finish out my 12 by 12. And so that's the entirety of my 12 by 12 there. So now I've got 11 more to go. Is my voice going to make it? We'll see. May have to do a part 2. All right. So the next, I want 5 books from my wall of shame. And so I went downstairs to the lair to where my wall of shame resides. And these are all physical books. And I actually more than 5. And some of them will go into other categories too. But let's see. That is not. Okay, so here are some books that I just pulled off of my wall of shame this afternoon. This one is Touching Tomorrow by Mary Laverde. And you can tell it's got like a VHS. And this is nonfiction. This is How to Interview Your Loved Ones to Capture a Lifetime of Memories on Video or Audio. And of course, it's got the little VHS design on the cover. So this, what year was this? This is from the year 2000, and it was not very old when I met Mary Laverde at, I think it was a professional development conference. And it's, what it says on the tin, how to interview your loved ones to capture a lifetime of memories on video or audio. And I've started reading it, but I decided that I wanted to kind of, try to get a little more genealogy stuff done in another section. So I put it aside. And so I am getting back to that stuff too, but I've decided, especially since a lot of family's been dying and stuff. So it's nice to, and I have, out of what I've read so far in this, it has been very helpful in, sometimes at family reunions, there will be somebody there with a video camera. And so, I remember one time my great aunt Iva Dean was at a family reunion. And so my dad actually interviewed her, and just about, family stories and how things were when she was younger and everything, and people she remembered, and also shared some stories from the previous generation that she remembered. And one of them was about Jesse James visiting our family's farm, and his band. They showed up at our family farm, and I can't think, was it Margaret Mihala? I can't remember who it was. I'll have to. Somebody had a video camera, so I need to find out who has that recording. But yeah, they just showed up and very politely asked if they could water their horses. And, she's like, "Well, you'll understand if I don't invite you inside." And you're just like, "There's the well, water your horses. There's a grape arbor, help yourself to grapes." And that was pretty much that interaction, but still, it's just, oh yeah, the James gang was very active in that part of the state. But anyway, this book is about how to interview family members and, or people you care about. They don't have to be related. And it's a really neat little book, so it doesn't matter that the technology has changed, that we don't very much. I have seen people still using VHS, just saying. But that's, yeah, I do want to read this. So that's a possibility for Off My Wall of Shame. Here's another one. Actually, wait, I'm gonna talk about that one later. All right. Oh, this is one that, yeah, I started this for a book club, Burial Rites by Hannah Kent. And I started this for a book club some years ago. And yeah, it was, it's based on a true story. It's a novelization, basically, of this true story of this woman charged with the brutal murder of two men. Agnes Magnusdóttir has been removed to her homeland's farthest reaches to an isolated farm in northern Iceland to await execution. And yeah, it's off to a great start, but as with so many things on my wall of shame, I had to put it down for one reason or another, and I didn't get around to picking it back up. And I still want to read it. So I will have an opportunity soon. And I'm trying not to front load this to where it's like, oh, I'm going to read this next month for this readathon. And no, I'm going to read this in August. No, I am hoping to read this next month for the Australian readathon, because even though it's set in Iceland, the author, Hannah Kent, is Australian. So it will count for Australian readathon. So I do want to read that. That's a possibility. And this is one that I keep wanting to get back to this. And I keep starting it, and I have to start it over because it's intricate. This is Night Film by Marisha Pessl, and she's the author of Special Topics in Calamity Physics, which I absolutely adored. And Night Film is a really strange book. It's definitely multimedia. It's about this guy who is on sort of a mission to ruin this filmmaker because he thinks the filmmaker murdered a girl or a young woman. I can't remember, but anyway, but it's very immersive. It's like got like fake websites and everything of, this filmmaker has this cult following, and some of his films are rumored to be so intense that people die or I forget what exactly, but and I get to a certain point in the book and I just have to keep reminding myself, oh, this isn't real. This isn't a real guy. And because I start feeling bad that I've never watched any of this guy's films. And it's like, oh, no way. And that happens sometimes with like books about fake books, fictional authors of fictional book, fake books that don't exist. And I'll say, why haven't I read? Oh, that's because they didn't exist. Why haven't I watched this guy's stuff? Because he doesn't exist and his work doesn't exist. But yeah, it's very, there's, it's mixed media, got fake, all these, fake fan sites and everything. And, but it is long. It is a chunker. So, so this could qualify for that, for on my, off of my Wall of Shame, or it could qualify for the Chonkers list category, which I'll get to it in a bit. So I'm going to kind of keep that over here. And here's another that might also go into another category. And this is The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. I've started it a couple times now, either for book club or for Victober or something. And it is intriguing. It's another very long book. This one is right at 499 pages. Yeah, so it's kind of a chunker, but and and sometimes Victorian literature, you have to pay attention to it in a way that you don't have to for a lot of just everyday modern stuff. So that's a possibility. But it might go into another category. And let's see. I am surrounded by stacks and stacks and stacks of books. Okay. And here is one. What is Not Yours Is Not Yours by Helen Oyeyemi. I think I'm saying that right. And if I'm saying somebody's name wrong and you know how it's pronounced, please do correct me. I like being corrected. I don't like being wrong. And I'm usually pretty good about admitting when I'm wrong. But this is a collection of short stories, and some of them, I read the first one and I started on the second one, and I got the impression that maybe from whoever recommended it to me, that some of these stories are intertwined with each other, but maybe not all of them. I also seem to recall hearing something controversial about the author, but I don't remember what. So if you know what that was, kind of give me a heads up if that's something I need to be worried about. I have decided, though, that, when it comes to author controversy, and separating the art from the artist kind of thing, not so much separating the art from the artist, so much as the damage has been done. If I own a copy of the book, I've already paid my money, and the money has already gone filtered through to the author or their estate. But it's more problematic to me if they're still alive. I don't want to, if I disagree with their actions, let's just say, I don't want to give them money, and so I quit buying their work. But if I've already bought it, the damage is done. They already have my money. I might as well read it and see what I think. And sometimes the author's manner or whatever does come through, and it's interesting to see when it does. And other times it's like, reading this book, I never would have thought that of that author. So, and sometimes I'm just like oblivious. Who knows? But so that's one. Okay, so this, I don't know why. This is one of those books that is hard for me to finish because I don't want it to end. I'm just really enjoying the flow of the story. This is The Invisible Life of Adi LaRue by V.E. Schwab, Victoria Schwab, and I have the signed edition that, first edition when it first came out, and yeah, I'm enjoying it so much. I'm just like, I don't want it to end. And it's just, it flows and there's all this stuff, and that doesn't tell you anything, does it? Oh, okay, I'm sorry, but I really like her writing. I keep wanting to buy her new stuff, but it's like, I should read what I have. Finish that, maybe. So there's that. So I'd say, I've got a pretty good. How many pages is that? I mean, it feels thick, but oh no, it's a little over 400 pages. It's, yes, the paper's thick. I don't know. So there's that. Those are some good choices there. But if you have any others that, because a lot of times in the past I would film in front of my wall of shame. And so you could kind of see some of the titles. So if any of those jumped out at you and you think I ought to put them on my 60 by 60, feel free to recommend them either in the chat here now or in the comments later. Okay, so water. All right. For an online book club. And then I have another one for an in-person book club. So this is going to be 10. So I'll just kind of take these here together. So, and here's the other library book, because I was wanting to kind of look ahead a little bit. And, most book clubs don't go out very far. I do have I have 2 book clubs that go out into the following year. So there's an in-person mystery book club, and that's and also an in-person. Well, actually, no, it's online now. We pivoted to online, and every once in a while we try to do in person, and it's like, no, let's just go back to Zoom. But that one's science fiction and fantasy or speculative fiction book club. But for the mystery book club, sometime, I think January of next year, we're going to be reading The River We Remember by William Kent Kruger, and that is available from my library. So I will be reading a library book. That will be the second library book that I am putting on this list. All right. So for online book club, and so for a lot of these, I'm actually going back to books that I didn't finish in time for book club, or maybe in some cases I didn't get the book in time for the book club, but I still want to read it. So let's see what we got. So Ancillary Justice could work for that. And this is by Anne Leckie, Ancillary Justice, first in the Imperial Radch, I'm not sure how to say that, series. I started it, and I'm just like, I'm not sure I'm smart enough to read this. But I just keep hearing how great it is and how great the whole series is, and I just really want to get back to it. And actually now I have my physical copy, and I think I've got an ebook copy, and I think I've got an audiobook copy too. So that will be fun and interesting. And put that there. So that would be for, I'm pretty sure that was an online book club. Let's see. And this was for an online book club. And this is Cloud Cuckoo Land by Anthony Doerr. And this is another one that it's like, wow, this is deep and dense, and I'm not sure what's going on. And so I keep, it's like I start it and then I put it aside. It's like, maybe there's a better time to deal with this one. And it is also a chunker. It's over 500 pages, 560 something. And I have met Anthony Doerr. I loved All the Light We Cannot See. And he was Loveland, which is a nearby town. He was there. Loveland Reads. That was their pick, the All the Light We Cannot See. And so I went to the reception for him, and he signed my book, and stood around and chatted for a while, and his presentation was just amazing. And so I've been really wanting to read this, but every time I try, I'm just like, I don't know if I can read this right now. This takes a lot of attention. So I do want to try it again. So there's another one, which could also go in the chonker category. And then let's see. Like I said, I am surrounded by stacks and stacks of books, and I found like 2 more stacks that were hiding behind other stacks. I'm not even going to look at those right now. And this was for an in-person book club. This is Northwoods by Daniel Mason, and this was making all the rounds of the prize committees and everything. I think it won some and got nominated for more, and I made quite a bit of progress on it, and it's really interesting. But this is, again, one that you have to really be paying attention to. It's not like a cozy mystery that you can bop in and out of, and so I kind of feel like I need to start it over. So yeah, this was also on my wall of shame, but there you go. And I'm not going to look at the page count. I think it's probably 400 and some pages, so not quite a chunker. And this was for an in-person book club, The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern, author of The Night Circus, which I did absolutely love. And okay, so this is, I'm told, even though it's billed as dark academia, it's not really dark academia. And okay, my problem with this, I was really getting into it, but it took a little bit, because let me see if it's on the first page. There's something on the first page. If I can find it, I'll read it to you. No, it's not. Anyway, there's a point at which an owl flies down to catch something, a prey or something. This owl is flying. And the author remarks on its wings making noise, wing beats making noise. The whole point of owls' feathers are that they don't make noise. They don't make noise. They're silent. They fly silently. And that just really, I get bent out of shape about little things sometimes. It's just like, I'm an owl person, and I figure that's just one of those things that there should be a fact checker somewhere going, owls' wings don't make noise. So, anyway, I did continue on a little ways, and again, this is off of my wall of shame. A lot of these, I am trying to kind of skew towards my wall of shame wherever possible. But I'm putting this in the category of in-person book clubs for this, and it was getting interesting. But in my mind, I kept going back do those wings make a noise? And I feel like I need to try it again and give it more of a chance. So, because I love the Night Circus. Oh, I shouldn't have put that there. Now my stacks are falling. And this is another one for an in-person book club. News of the World by Paulette Giles. And I actually had this on my list for June on the Range a couple of years ago, I think. And I was thinking I might do it this year for June on the Range, but doesn't look like I'm getting to it this year. So maybe next year I will read this for June on the Range. I started it for a book club, in-person book club, and I was really enjoying it. And then I was like, oh, wait, I should watch the movie too, because the movie was just getting ready to leave. What was it, HBO? What do they call it? Max? Well, at the time it was still HBO. I was getting ready to leave HBO, so I started watching it. Then I had to go do something else halfway through, and then I never got back to the movie, so I haven't finished watching the movie. Anyway, so the book got set aside, and I hadn't got back to it. But really was liking the movie and the book, so this should be an easy win, maybe for June on the Range next year. And this could go into several categories, but this could be an in-person book club one. This is Carrie by Stephen King. This is an old classic. Classic horror. This is, it's even got the black and white movie stills. Yeah, the movie was not black and white, I'm pretty sure, because I started reading this, and I probably have read all of it, just not all the way through. It's because I skimmed a lot of it for the book club, and that was the Book is Better book club, in which we would read the book and then we would watch the movie, and whenever possible we would get together and watch the movie. And I think this one we did actually watch the movie online, but we discussed the book. We had a separate meeting in person to discuss the book and the movie. Yes. And we only watched the original movie with Sissy Spacek, the one on the cover here. And yeah, this was Stephen King's first novel, and it's very 70s, except he said a lot of the female interactions he got from his wife, and I think his wife was trolling him because I was a girl in the 70s, and granted I wasn't a teenager in the 70s, but I was a teenager in the 80s. And yeah, I maybe it was just a different part of the country. Maybe the Midwest people, teenage girls didn't act like that, and they did in Maine. I don't know. But yeah, I had some issues, but it's still one that I do want to just read beginning to end finally and make my determination as to how I feel about it. All right. And here's another in-person book club, and this is All the Ugly and Wonderful Things. And this is also, it's only 400 and some pages, a little over 400, but it looks thicker, feels heavier. And was this made into a movie? I don't remember. I'm wanting to say it was, but this book club meeting was before that. This was for the Fucked Up book club. And it's kind of fucked up. I was really enjoying it, but it's one of those books that it's hard to read because it's messed up. The quote from Bustle is shocking and unexpectedly touching. And yeah, I think that's pretty well sums it up. But I do want to finish it because I felt like the writing was really good. And I gather it was at least semi-autobiographical, so that kind of adds a layer of interest. Um, okay. Oh, an online book club. And this was there's a virtual steampunk book club and temporal textual talks, and they have a Facebook group. So you can look them up. And if you're into steampunk, and they have an online meeting on Zoom, and it's a lot of fun. I don't get to go very often because a lot of times I'll have a scheduling conflict because it's on a Sunday, and sometimes I have Segal stuff going on. Anyway, but this is Agatha H. and the Airship City, a Girl Genius novel. And so there's like the Girl Genius comics, and then their novels, and I gather they're kind of separate things. But anyway, Phil and Kaya Folio. I think it's Kaya, Kaja. I'm trying to remember. Anyway, it has a book blurb. The cover has a blurb from Charlie Strauss. I will confess to being a big fan of Phil and Kaya Folio's Girl Genius. And I love the cover. It's very steampunk. I had for steampunk. So, and I did not get around. I managed to finish the prologue. And I actually got this at, I think, can't remember if it was Anomaly Con and a con in Denver. They were guests. It was probably an Anomaly Con. And so I got them both to sign it. Yay. Oh gosh, I'm getting my stacks all mixed up. This is not good. Okay, so let's move on from that. Oh, audiobooks. So I do have a special section for audiobooks and a special section for ebooks. And you know what? I'm going to skip over those for now because I can tell I'm not going to be able to go very long. But if you look me up on Goodreads, I mean, you've got the link to my blog, so that is on Goodreads. So, and to find me, you don't have to know my email address or anything. It's just Stina Branson. Just plug it into the the search field for because I'm a Goodreads author. So so you can find me that way, and I think it will let you look at my bookshelves. So if you want to see what I have, you can always look there. And except I don't actually mark whether they're audiobooks. Sometimes I make sure that I have the right, and a lot of times I do try to make sure that I've got the right edition, but sometimes I don't bother to do that, especially if I'm doing it on my phone because I can't switch editions on my phone. So, but if you have any suggestions for audiobooks or ebooks, like things that you think are especially good in audiobook format, please let me know, especially if you think it's probably something I already have on my shelves, and can add to my list here. I'll skip that for now because I do want to kind of focus on physical books. So let's see, chunky books. We've seen a lot of chunky books here. So and one I did not bring up, Cryptonomicon. I have that down on my signed editions shelf. It should, it might actually be on my wall of shame and I just missed it today. I'll have to find it. because I do have Cryptonomicon, and I did start it, and I got a few chapters in, but it's, again, one of those, it's like, oh, I need to focus on this. Let's see, is this a chunky? What is this? Nope. So I'm calling the chunky books, I'm saying 500 pages or bigger. That's, for Tome Topple, 500 pages. Thoughts on Tomes, what Sam at Thoughts on Tomes does Tome Topple. And I think she was planning to do another one soon here. So maybe you'll actually get a chunky book done. And I mean, it's Big Book Summer too. And that threshold is 400 pages. So some of these, and I already have like a list of 400 plus page books that I'm intending to read this summer that I don't necessarily have up here. So this summer is going to be wild. Chunky books. Oh my God. That's way beyond chunky. And this is one, okay, no, I am not an Ayn Rand fan. I promise you, I am not an Ayn Rand fan. Atlas Shrugged. I have never read Atlas Shrugged. And I feel, even though I have a pretty good idea what's in here, I don't feel like I can properly trash it or trash her without actually reading it. And this is pages. Yeah, it's a mass market paperback, so of course it's going to be kind of hefty, but it's 1,084 pages. What is this? Lectures on Objectivism, the Philosophy of Ayn Rand by Dr. Leonard Peikoff. The Ayn Rand Letter? Oh my God. Ew. Ew. I'll be doing good to get through this mess. There's a chunky book. Yay. Oh. 700 and 781 pages, plus a family tree in the back, and all sorts of quincunxes. I love that word, quincunx. Oh, and an alphabetical list of names. Yeah, there are a lot of characters in here, apparently. This is a book crossing book. I've had this for entirely too long. This is The Quincunx by Charles Palliser. And yeah, this is a chunky book. And it's a mystery and family secrets and all sorts of good stuff. And skeleton key on the cover. Oh. Okay. I know I had more chunky books. What did I do with them? I mean, okay, so there's... Okay, The Woman in White is 499 pages. I'm going to count that as chunky. Also counts as a classic, which is another category here. And then there's one that I did not bring up, and that is Sea and Land. And I'm gonna have to do a special thing just on it, maybe a short or something, because it's I have no idea where it came from. Dad doesn't know where it came from. I was visiting my dad, and I was like, "What's this?" Pulled it off the shelf, and he was like, "I don't know. Your mom got it somewhere." Oh, we've got a lot of stuff like that. My dad has no idea where it came from, and I remember one time my mom calling me. It's like, "Oh, I was going through this closet and I found a violin. Is it yours?" I'm like, I have all my violins. It's like, oh, I don't know where this violin came from. She probably bought it at some point, meaning to give it to me, and then put it in the closet and forgot about it. And it's like, oh, hey, here's a violin. All right. So now I did eventually get it, and no, I had never seen it before. Needs strings. It only had 2 strings. So, but yeah. Or maybe my mom just has a magic closet. Well, had. She's passed away. Okay. Pardon me while I see if I can get to this. Oh, no, that's a library book. Never mind. Oh, here we go. The Boys in the Boat. And this is actually counts as a book club book. And I can't remember which book club now. But anyway, I was in a book club that was reading. This is over 500 pages. 521 is where the notes end. And this kind of notes, the end notes kind of thing, not just like references to, not just gosh, the word escapes me. If anyone knows the word, please tell me. But yeah. I keep wanting to say syllabus, and that's not right. But actual end notes, I do read those. So it's over 500 pages, 521 pages. And it also has pictures. This is a history book. The Boys in the Boat, 9 Americans and Their Epic Quest for Gold at the 1936 Berlin Olympics by Daniel James Brown. And the inspiration for the documentary, The Boys of 36. And apparently that was a PBS production. And, speaking of PBS, earlier this evening, I watched the PBS Readers Club. They had a thing on cozy mysteries, and, they had commentary from, was it Robert Thorogood, I think is his name, who wrote the Marlowe Mystery Club, I think. I read that and really enjoyed it. And also the guy who wrote Mayflower Murders, Anthony Horowitz. And I've heard some stuff about him lately. So, but I've already bought, I've read I've read Magpie Murders. I think I have Moonflower Murders and something else, some other stuff by him. And I've enjoyed the Sherlock Holmes stuff I've read by him. So the stuff I already have, and I still need to look into whether or not I want to quit sending him money. But, and also, picking things up at library book sales, he doesn't see any money from that. So I feel okay doing that. And this is one you can tell I got at a library book sale. Not that I'm saying I know anything bad about Daniel James Brown. I know nothing about Daniel James Brown. But I have had this recommended to me numerous times, and pretty sure I got this for a book club, or maybe just a challenge. I don't know. But it sounds like a really interesting topic. I've had it recommended to me numerous times. And so let's see, let's go ahead and move on to from the office stacks. So, it's like, well, I had a bunch of stuff down my wall of shame. And then a lot of my wall of shame had migrated up here, as you've seen. And then there was just other books that I brought up here for whatever reason, and they've just kind of developed into stacks around my desk. So I'm also trying to get them into shelves. So let's see, what do we got? Here's one. Running for Shelter by Michelle Spring. And so I figured I needed to put some nice little mass market paperbacks in here, or just short little things that maybe, and this also accounts for TBR veterans. And by that, you know, a lot of times TBR veterans will say, "Oh, you've had it like 5 years," and it's like, I have so many books that I have had for 5 years or longer. So I was decided, okay, let's go back. So anything that's at least from the era of my first marriage or older. And this I got for, so it is signed to me by Michelle Spring. And I actually remember meeting her and talking to her. She's a really, really great person. And I've read the first one. I enjoyed it. This is the second in the series, and a Laura Principal novel. So Laura Principal is her sleuth. I got this for the BoucherCon that I went to in 2001, and that was a trip. 2001. It was held in Washington, D.C. in October of 2001. And that was an experience. A lot of people canceled, especially people from New York. And because, of course, you know, and what was it? Yeah, I had to change because I had planned to fly into Dulles, but no. Dulles is close, so I had to fly into Reagan, or no, the other way around. I was going to fly into, anyway, or was it? No, I forget which. No, Dulles got evacuated and closed. But anyway, yeah, that was, yeah, there were, well, of course, now we're living under a fascist regime, so, oh, and by the way, reminder, reading is political. Books are political. Everything is political. Life is political. If you're alive, you are a political being. You can't get away from it. But it was, at that time, it was very jarring to see military personnel stationed on every corner of the city with automatic weapons. And and actually had a commuter, because there were hardly any tourists in the city at that time. And I remember being on the metro one night afternoon, and there was some commuter traffic, and one of the commuters, and you know, wearing a nice business suit but also wearing tennis shoes, she addressed some people near us who, you know, they had their little Smithsonian bags and everything, and they were obvious tourists. And she addressed them and said, "Thank you for visiting our city at this terrible time." And it was just, you know, because there weren't very many tourists in the city. And, you know, for a native to actually thank tourists was really bizarre, because if you live in a tourist destination, you know, I live really close to Rocky, and and you know, I lived in New Mexico, and there's lots of tourist stuff in New Mexico. When you live in a tourist destination, whenever you're surrounded by tourists, you get really burnt out on tourists. And it was just, and you kind of develop this attitude, it's, tourists, even though they're actually very important to your economy and making everything work. And it was just really, oh, and yeah, we were having brunch on the rooftop of the Kennedy Center. May it rest in peace. But we were having brunch up there on the rooftop, and they've got a restaurant up there, and it was the Marine Corps Marathon, I think, anyway, along the Potomac. And so they had military helicopters actually like buzzing us, going up and down the entire time. And, you know, they would buzz the Kennedy Center. It was wild. But anyway, I bought this in 2001 and had Michelle Spring sign it for me. Yeah. And here's so okay, the ones I have left are, gifted books that I've received as gifts and really should read because a lot of them are ones I asked for specifically. It's like maybe I should read this. Classics, and then so I did have written down A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court, and that's one that I really, it's been on my audiobook list for a very, very long time, like 8 years, 9 years, something like that. So that I would like to read very much. That's by Mark Twain. I'm a big Twain fan. I'm a Missouri girl, and we're raised on Mark Twain. And yeah, I could go off on a tangent, but I won't. TBR veterans and from the 55 list. So I'm going to get 55 books and then another 5 that I specifically pull from the list that I failed at, the remaining books of that 55. And was that 47? Those remaining 47 books. So if you want to look at that list, and like I said, the link should be down below. If you want to look at that list and tell me if you see anything on there that you really think I need to roll over to this challenge, please put that in the comments. Don't need to do that right now. You can do that. It's going to take me a little while to put this together. So, anyway, here's more, and this could go under classics. This could go under from the Office stacks because they've both. I finally found them both. I have 2 copies of The Crucible by Arthur Miller play, and I've read scenes for various courses throughout my life. I've read scenes from The Crucible, but I've never actually read the entire Crucible. I've never read the entire play. And somehow I wound up with 2 different editions. But at the same time, every time I went to, it was like, oh, I need to read that for this, that, or the other. That'll fit that prompt. And I go to look for it, and I can't. I've got 2 copies, and I never can find either one. Finally, I managed to get them both in the same place at the same time. So I do know that I do have 2 copies. I thought I was going crazy. I'm like, I thought I had 2 copies. Why do I have 0 copies? But I have 2 copies. So they are in my office. If I ask you at some point in the future, if I say, where is my copy? Where are my copies of The Crucible? They are in my office. And I'm just going to kind of go through what I have left here and tell you what categories it might go into. Arsenic and Adobo. This is one that I pulled off my Wall of Shame earlier today. And I started it, and I think I probably started it when I was at that convention at Left Coast Crime, and I got it signed, I think. Yeah, you signed. By Mia P. Manansala. And anyway, this should be a fun, it's a Tita Rosie's Kitchen mystery, and I'm sure it has recipes. Doesn't it have recipes? Doesn't have recipes? What? Oh, yes, it has recipes. Coconut jam? Filipino ginger tea inspired? Spiced banana bread. Ooh. I got to read this for the recipes if nothing else. But Mia was a lovely person when I met her, so I definitely want to finish reading this. And so there's a book. Here's another in-person book club. Also, Wall of Shame. This is Way Out There, Adventures of a Wilderness Trekker by J. Robert Harris. And I think I've talked about this before on my channel when I was actively reading it and hadn't finished it. And always got pictures and everything. He's been all over the place. This gentleman is just absolutely wonderful. And his storytelling style is really engaging yet easy to follow. Yeah, he's gone all over the place. And here's another Wall of Shame. How long is this? Not quite a chunker, not quite a tome for Tome Topple. 472 pages. This I figure I will read. On this Wall of Shame. But I figure I will get to this during some old school April. This is Deceptions by Judith Michael. And I remember watching I think it was a miniseries. Maybe it was just a TV movie, but I think it was a miniseries back in the 80s. This is so 80s. I love it. God, let's see. We talked about Night Film. Oh, Book Lovers. This is from my gifted pile. And this is an Emily Henry book. It's a rom-com kind of thing. I'm just not sure a rom-com needs to be 373 pages long. So I'm struggling a little bit with it because I'm not sure I like these characters. But if I put it on my 60 by 60, I gotta finish it. I mean, and I asked for it specifically, and I'm losing my earbud again. Right. And here's another. This is a classic. I have not started this, but this is also a TBR veteran. I have had this for do I know how long? I do not know how long. This is a book crossing book, and oh yeah, July is going to be a busy month for me because it's my book crossing anniversary is in July. My booktube anniversary is in July. So I'm trying to put together some kind of special stuff for those. And I have not been super active in book crossing lately. So I want to change that. But yeah, I got this from a book crosser. Or is that mine? No, that's my handwriting. Okay, so I registered this on book crossing. I do not know when, but this is Mary Roberts Reinhardt. This is an old mystery. She was really popular in like the 60s. This is from 1908. Okay. For some reason, I had her associated with the 60s, maybe because a lot of the copies I have of her work are published. They were printed in the 60s, and that's why I always get a 60s vibe from her stuff. But yeah, this came out in 1908. She was very well known for the Had I But Known, Woman in Peril trope, I guess. It's like, had I but known that he was a villain. Whatever. But yeah, you've got the woman in the flimsy nightgown running down the stairs. Yeah. And here's one that it's another one that I want to really pay attention to, and it feels like a chunker, but it's only a little over 400 pages. But this is Symphony of Secrets by Brendan Slocum. I've met him. He's a lovely gentleman and a fine musician. And I loved his first book, The Violin Conspiracy. And I got to meet, he was, The Violin Conspiracy was it Symphony of Secrets? No, Violin Conspiracy was the Fort Collins Reads book a few years ago. So I went to the reception, hung out with them and all that fun stuff. And yes, we had a lovely chat, and I have not gotten around to reading Symphony of Secrets. It sounds very intriguing. It's a dual timeline, historical fiction kind of thing. And he's got a third book out now, so I gotta read this so that I can read his third book. And here is one. This also came off of my wall of shame. And this, I actually got to thinking about this last Friday at Alex's, the channel tag is Frank Fiction. And she does reading sprints on Friday evenings, not this coming week, but this coming Friday, but she'll resume the following Friday. And somebody, was it Nicole? Somebody was asking about a word that meant basically a cultural misunderstanding. And that got me thinking, I've got a book somewhere about cultural misunderstandings. I wonder if it has the word in it that she wants. But this is Cultural Misunderstandings by Raymond Carroll. And it's about the French-American experience, and it's translated by Carol Volk. And Volk? I'm not sure, V-O-L-K. My initial instinct is to pronounce it folk, but I don't know. But I actually won this in 1990. I won the Alberto Andino Award for Distinguished Achievement in the Study of French at Drury College in 1990. And so, yeah. So this was part of my prize for winning that. And I still haven't finished it. I've had it since 1990 and I've never read the whole thing. So I feel really bad. I feel like a bad student of foreign language. Anyway, I've got more. Oh, here's another one for my gifted. The Last House on the Street by Diane Chamberlain. And this is one that I asked for specifically, so I need to read it. And I had this for Yola Bokoshud. Probably saying that wrong. I can't remember where the accent marks go. But anyway, Yuletide book flood and flood of books. It's an Icelandic tradition that some of my friend groups, reading friends, we've co-opted this tradition. We've swiped it, and so we do this thing where we send each other books and chocolate, and then we spend Christmas Eve reading our books. And so on Christmas Eve I'll go through and read the first chapter of each one, and then decide which one I'm going to finish reading. And yeah, so some of them do get set aside until the new year, and then another new year and another new year. So I've had this one a few years now. But I'm going to read that. And this one I got last Christmas for Yola Bokoshud. And this is A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher. And I have started it, and I've been reading a little bit at a time for a while. Just kind of, I'm trying to kind of take a relaxed approach with this one. Oh my god, isn't that just a gorgeous cover? It's all shiny here, and the foil, and but that is there. And yeah, it is a retelling of the, and that's another thing with this. It's a retelling of the Goose Girl. She does a lot of fairy tale retellings, the Goose Girl story, and I'm not familiar with that one, so I've got to go. I feel like I need to go find that story. I think it's a Grimm's fairy tale, and read that before I can really get into this one. And And here's a few more that have been hiding in my office stacks. Oh, before I get to that, let's see. Brian says Samuel R. Delaney wrote Weird and Vibey. Okay, that tracks. Yeah, weird and vibey. I mean, it was the 60s. What else you gonna write? Let's see these. And okay, Brian, you'll appreciate this. Family Trade has been hiding in my office, so yes, I will get back to this. Brian has been bugging me to read that for a very long time now, and I'm enjoying it. It's fun. It's very 80s, but I miss the 80s. I liked the 80s. We had fun in the 80s. We didn't know the 80s were going to destroy the world. And then speaking of the 80s, this didn't come out in the 80s. This is from 2009, but it's Sue Grafton's U is for Undertow. And probably you can just see the big U. But and this is obviously in Sue Grafton's alphabet series. And yeah, so I've read up to T and I need to read U, and I just keep putting it off, and I don't know why. But it's been hiding in my office for a while. So that might make it onto my list of 60. And then for classics, and oh, when is this from? It's a science fiction classic. Maybe I'll read it. No, it's from 1970, so I can't read it for Rocket Summer. But this is Ringworld by Larry Niven. And this is another book that I have had for a very, very, very long time. Don't know exactly how long. I apparently made it to page 7. Yeah, I wasn't having a real great time with it, but it's a classic. I should read it. And I also, I keep getting these things that, challenge prompts to read something from my birth year. Well, 1970, that's my birth year. So, And here's another classic that I've had not very long, but I figure this will be good for, and every once in a while I put it on my Victober pile of possibilities. And this is Little Lord Fauntleroy by Frances Hodgson Burnett of, what's the book? There's a famous book. Orphan girl. Everyone in India around her dies, and she gets shipped back to England, and she's a brat, but she finds that there's another kid who outbrats her, and then they decide to actually be nice to each other. Anyway, The Secret Garden. That's it. Yay. But yeah, so she wrote The Secret Garden, and she also wrote Little Lord Fauntleroy, which I don't really know much about. It's, let's just say, a 7-year-old boy is transported from the mean streets of 19th century New York to the splendor of his grandfather's English manor in this beloved classic of children's literature. So that is another one that it's a classic and it's been hiding in my office. So it'll fit one of those categories. Okay, I think I'm going to stop there. I probably have more that I could talk about, but it's been an hour, almost an hour and 45 minutes now. And you can hear it in my voice. I'm sure you can. So anyway, yeah, I do hope that you will, you've made it this far. But yeah, I hope you will at least at some point, try to think of, some comment about, if there are any of these books, or if there are others you recommend that it's like, I know you have this book, you need to read it sometime in the next 5 years. Let me know in the comments below. And also, yeah, I hope to be kind of keeping up with stuff better in July. Um, things seem to be getting better for me in a lot of ways, so hopefully we can do that. And like I said, yeah, I'm doing Rocket Summer, and yes, and I also try to do sprints on other people's channels. Um, and yeah, so I might see you around at some of those, and um, especially, and I'm on some of the discords for some of these challenges and readathons and whatnot. So see you around at those, and yeah, I hope y'all are having a great reading summer or winter if you're in the other hemisphere, southern hemisphere, and hope y'all are having a great time and reading lots of great books. And I will talk at you later.